What we'll do now is take a look at sort of an attacker landing on a machine, what they may do, how we can spot that, and ultimately, what they're looking to do is potentially take some data away, deploy ransomware, and then ask for some money to give that data back. So we'll look at a few of the things that an attacker may do when they first land on the machine in the build up to an attack, and we'll sort of switch between the machines and a dashboard to see what that looks like when we've got sort of effective threat hunting in place over and above standard threat protection. And sort of that, what we're doing using for that is the SentinelOne platform. It's the basis for our MDR services that we run. So what we've got, and I'll just need to unlock one of those machines. So we've got an attacker machine here. So it's Metasploit. It is running a standard Metasploit, so we can run some exploits against a machine. We've got a Windows 10 machine here. We'll just unlock that quick. And then underneath that, we've got a domain server. So this machine is joined to this domain. In the background, we've got our SentinelOne dashboard running. Quick caveat before we do anything this morning, these machines are all mine, under my control. So anything that I do on these machines is perfectly legal. If I were to go and do this to a machine that is not under my control, or I don't have prior authorization to do it, it is against the law. You can be prosecuted for that. So the other caveat, I guess, is the techniques that we'll use here for exploiting the machine are quite old. But the majority of sort of AV platforms should be able to detect this. Not even talking about EDR platforms. They should be really easy to detect. So there's nothing groundbreaking here that anyone can take away and sort of make use of in the real world, let's say. So what I've done just on our Kali Linux machine here, bring that over, is just started a listener running. So we set our port, set our IP address. This is now listening for inbound connections. What we've done with our attacker is we've actually distributed a file to this one to make it easy for the purpose of doing the demo. This could be anything, could be a link within an email, phishing email that's got through various defenses. However, an attacker wants to distribute something for the user to click on. That could be, any way. So what we'll do is we'll run this file. Luckily for me, I'm a local admin on the machine, so again, something to be very wary of, giving users local admin rights. It allows them to do things like this. You'll see pop-ups like this as we go through. So this is the SentinelOne agent. It's running in detect mode only, so it will alert us to things that it sees, but it's not going to take any actions. So we've run our little application on our machine over here, and you can see now that it's opened a session between the two machines. So we now have connectivity from our attacker machine back to it. So it's sort of that easy when you talking to users about clicking links, running unknown applications, things like that. That's how quickly this can happen. So once we're on here, we're just going to take a look at the machine and see what we've got. So we can run a couple of really simple commands just to get information around the machine. So we see straight away that we're a Windows 10 machine. We are on a domain, and we're logged in as what appears to be just a domain user. So what we can do then is actually drop down onto the machine and open up a shell onto the machine. Now we're still working at this stage as a domain user, so we haven't got a huge number of rights, but what we can do is just query our user against the domain, and we can have a look and see what user accounts are on this domain. Being a demo domain, we've got an administrator account, a demo user, guest, and a Kerberos account on there. So fairly standard. We can then take a look at our actual user, query that against the domain, and that tells us what memberships we have crucially. So we can see that we are just a domain user. Confirm that. So we haven't got huge rights across the domains. We probably want to do something about that. Now, we saw this administrator account up here, so let's check that administrator account as well while we're here. And just query again against the domain. And what we can see there is that administrator account that we can see is in the enterprise admins group, so it's got full unfettered access to the domain. For those that are maybe not running on-premise AD anymore, or running Azure AD or Entra, slightly different commands, but we can still do the same from a joined workstation to query the Microsoft 365 domain. Some of the things that we'll do here will be a concern for those with on-premise AD, but a bigger concern for those with Microsoft 365, hence why you need more controls around Microsoft 365, and that sort of should become apparent as we go. So one of the things that we can do is take a look at scheduled tasks. Attackers use a lot of scheduled tasks to run certain tasks, applications on machines. So we got a typo in that one. And again, there we go. So we can run this and just query everything that's sort of set up already on this machine, just to gather that information. So you see there, it just scrolls through all the scheduled tasks that are run. So that may be useful for us. We may be able to piggyback onto a scheduled task. We may just create our own scheduled task. But we can go and edit any of these or create new ones, basically. Once that's finished, we'll take a look at our, it's run a bit slow today. There we go. As you can see, there's quite a lot of scheduled tasks that run on machines, and this is just a standard stock Windows 10 build. So all of these are sort of deployed by default onto the machine. So that's run through. So we can run now a command just to take a look at our firewall, see what state the firewall's in, see what is going on, and we can see that we're on a domain profile and the operational mode is disabled on this. We haven't even got a firewall running on a machine. That we're really looking like we've hit the jackpot here. We can take a look at the routes on the machine. We can see there's not a huge amount. We're just on a single network. Okay, so not a huge amount there. Let's just run a who am I, just to get all the information around our account that we're using on here. We'll have a look and see what logon server we've got. We just echo that. We can see that we're logging on against demo DC, so we can now look up our demo DC IP address, so we know we're 10.146 on there. So if we want to now target that machine as a domain user, we can do. We could, as an example, run a find string command. So we would just look for pass within any text document. So we can run queries like this to start trying to surface information that might be valuable on a machine to us as an attacker. What we can also do, and we'll just run, I'm just going to copy this one because it's a big command. So what we're going to do here is pull PowerShell from an external source into, that's the wrong key, into memory and run that in memory. So we're not even going to, let's try that again. So that we don't need to make use of PowerShell that runs on the machine itself. We'll try and make use of it from somewhere else. Let's go old-fashioned and paste. There we go, and run that. What that's going to do is reach out to GitHub, pull PowerShell into memory, and then start running that. So we just let this get started, and then we'll sort of exit out of it. And the reasoning behind that is that it will show us when we look at the dashboard shortly exactly what's going on. So it's going to start running some scripts against the machine. All of this is happening in memory. We've not put any artifacts onto the machine at this stage. So everything that we've done so far, we've not really left any trace on the machine. So we'll just exit that one. Yes, we'll do that, and then just jump back down onto that. No, actually, what we'll do first is just take a look at some of the processes running on the machine really quickly. And what we're looking for here is a process now that may be of use to us. So on this machine, what have we got? Is anything helpful? You can see that we've got a lot running as user, we've got a lot running as entity authority, and hopefully somewhere within here we may well have processes running as other users as well. We're really lucky. We might have missed it. Let's go back down, try again. It's somewhere within here you should have an administrator account running that. There it is. So we've got really lucky because what we've found on here is that somebody's configured files of a server to run as administrator on the machine. So we can see our process there is 3332. So what we can now do is run a migrate for our process and jump onto that. What we'll then find is that once it runs through, is that we'll become the domain administrator now on the machine. So our session is running now as domain admin. If we get our user ID now, we can see we've elevated our our permissions, our privilege level up to domain admin. So what we'll do is just run a couple of quick commands here. So we're just going to add user account onto, sorry, need to get back in there, and then we can run that. And set our password and add that to the domain. So we'll create a user, so that's processing against the domain controller, and then what we can do is add that account to a group, and clearly we want this one to be the domain admin's user. So when we come back, we've already got, if we come back, we've already got domain admin account set up on there. So we process that now. We are running on the domain. What we can do, we can just exit out of this now. We can just drop back down to C drive. We can get our working directory real quick just to make sure we are there. And then what we're going to do is just navigate to that folder that we've got open over here. And then we're going to just upload a file. Let's just get that command in there. So we can upload that. You see that appear over here. So what we've done is uploaded a file that will run ransomware. If we want to run that now, it's a really simple execute command on this machine, and that will set that off. Rather than do that quickly, what we'll do is go and take a look at sort of some of the things that have happened on this machine, what we can do. First off, we'll just take a real quick look in our Active Directory, and we can see down here we've got our Evil Boss account. If we open that up, we can see it is indeed a member of domain admin. So as an attacker, we sort of landed very quickly. We carried out some reconnaissance on the machine. We've made some changes to Active Directory. This could be changes to Entra, so we could have a domain admin account operating in the cloud now that would allow us to log in to that Microsoft tenant and do the things that we want to do. Hence, it's important to have that sort of monitoring. As I say, we've had a platform running in the background that has generated a number of alerts. So what we're going to do is just open up one threat within here, which is going to start to give us information. As I say, we turned the protection level off on here to allow this to actually run through. You can see that we're seeing a number of threat indicators here. So all of these numbers that we see here are mappings to the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So we can go and take a look at what's actually gone on. Again, look at building this into our threat hunting strategy. And what we can do then is go and explore this as well. So we can see now that there's a lot of processes, and we'll start to see the things that we did as an attacker are listed out within here. If we look at just the command.exe within here, we can see it running the who am I command here, so we can see the command line parameter that went with that. So that's showing us a who am I /all running on there, and everything that we ran is showing here. Okay, so from a threat protection perspective, the things that we've done will be detected by threat protection. It's not that we've done anything groundbreaking this morning. But what we can also do is look at sort of how we look at that from a threat hunting perspective. So what we're looking at here is queries that we built within the platform that look at events happening on machines. So if we said, you know, in our world that we live in, the activities that we carried out this morning weren't detected by the threat protection element within Sentinel-1, and they were allowed to happen, how would we identify the attacker within our environment? So there's a number of things that we can see here. So we've got a alert being generated for somebody running net1.exe, and the command that they're running here is the one that we ran. So our user eagle boss password and domain. So what we are doing is running a query against the data that produces this information from us, and our query that we're running is matching against a regular expression against process command line parameters. So when we mentioned monitoring command line parameters, we can now surface this through somebody adding a user against a regular expression. So we can start to build up a lot of queries within here. We've got one as an example here, PowerShell with a DNS request. So we could also add into this PowerShell with a DNS request, spelled request here, that then targets a non-private IP address. So anything which would be publicly routed on the internet, we want to know about and we want to be able to see that. Again, we can see the command line entries that we're seeing here. So going out to that GitHub user content, so it typically indicates that the PowerShell is running. It's then pulling something down to run. And what we've got here is a PowerShell script running. We're bypassing checks around that and actually allowing us to run scripts on the machines. We can see the IP addresses that were returned to it. So this is all really valuable information to us as hunters. If we're getting an alert and we're seeing things like this being entered onto machines, we know pretty much straight away that we've got a pretty big problem and we need to go and investigate this further, all the way down to querying the firewall state on the machine. So I'll show our firewall state here. So what we can do is sort of create these alerts that will alert an analyst to come and take a look at something happening. As I say, we've got the threat protection element that runs As an MDR provider, what we do is create rule sets like this that are looking at telemetry that is constantly uploaded from machines, regardless of whether it's threat activity or just general activity that's happening on the machine. What that allows us to do is to take our experience and our knowledge of the type of attacks that are running currently and build rule sets around that so that we can be identified to specific attack types happening against any customer within our environment. So it's a way of being really proactive in defining a threat hunting program, defining queries and rules, and applying those so that they alert us and we can then go and deal with them. What we can do then, say as an example, within here are alert actions. We can mark this as a threat straight away. It's already been marked as a threat. But what we can now do is go and take a look at the storyline of this attack. A moment to open up. Be quick. There we go. So it should populate there. There we go. Got our query. We can now run that. Just get the correct result. So we can now take that one element that we hunted for, go and search that, and this is now everything associated with that single instance that we detected with that rule. And you'll see that it goes all the way back to our Zoom update that our user clicked on right in the beginning. So we've not just got a single alert in isolation, we've now got a complete story around everything this attacker did on this machine. We can look and say, okay, what happened here, command scripts, what was run. That will then filter our view down purely to command scripts, and what we'll see within here is a number of PowerShell entries within here around what we ran. As you come further down, you start to see that this was then as we hit that GitHub content, it's then pulling down additional PowerShell scripts and running those against the machine. We can see the DNS entry. We can see our network actions. So who was our PC connecting to? You can see as an example here, our initial Zoom update is connecting to our attacker. So this generally would be an external attacker. We can see the port. We can take actions against this straight away. So from building, in this instance, just a single threat hunting rule that targets specific activities really well, we can then go and see a whole attack sequence, and we can then deal with that firstly to stop that attacker. We can then see everything that the attacker has potentially done up until that point, which then allows us to remediate against that and undo any of the actions that the attacker took. So clearly with this, when we're seeing alerts coming through like we did just now, we can treat those as P1 alerts. If we've got our threat hunting strategy correct, and we've just got a couple more slides just to sort of focus on that element. If we've got that correct, then we know that these are really high priority alerts that we need to deal with immediately. So on that, we'll just jump back really quickly, just to look at the last sort of few slides, which would sort of focus around threat hunting and threat hunting capabilities that we're sort of looking at. So it's really easy to build search queries, and what we've done here is just run an example query, which is looking for a specific MITRE technique. So we're looking at the process injection here, what it does is produce a huge number of results. So our query is not great. So we're looking for one thing over 14 days with a maximum number of results of 2,000. We hit that really easily. The results we've got on the screen here, you'll see most of them relate to legitimate applications, and it only covers 9 seconds. So this is too much for us to deal with. We can't effectively give that sort of volume of data to an analyst and expect them to look at it and identify potential threats within it. Another, what we would term low fidelity query. So we're looking for unusual scheduled tasks being created. We clearly haven't got it right because we're seeing scheduled task information around legitimate applications. So Microsoft Office in this instance. So there's a huge number of scheduled tasks, changes, additions, deletions, queries that run on our machines daily. Again, within this one, we've done a search period of 24 hours, maximum results 20,000, and we hit that. Okay, so again, with this one, this query is next to useless for us when we're threat hunting. We're starting to get a little bit better now. So we've run a query here for service created over the last 48 hours. Again, maximum results of 20,000. You see we've only got 130 events now, so this is starting to improve somewhat. But again, when we look at this, we see that this could well just be legitimate activity. So again, it makes it a little bit easier to go through 130 events, but it's still probably too much. We can then start to improve our results. So what we can look to do is to add some variables into that. We can then look at changing the variables to improve the quality of the rules. So we're looking at batch file execution from temp. Again, a lot of this is coming from legitimate applications. Some of it is coming from applications that are bespoke within customer environments. So again, we need to look at that and identify those applications that exhibit behavior normally that could be considered abnormal. And then we can filter that information out of our queries and then start to improve. So again, with this one, we're on 100 results here. So what we can do from that is then start to really produce what we would term really high fidelity alert search queries. So with this one, we're looking for an exploit called maldoc. So it affected Microsoft. There was a pretty specific exploit. We could build a query that exactly matched that exploit. So if this returns a result, that exploit is running within the environment and you need to do something about it. So thankfully, when we run this one, 0 results, and that's what we want to see with these types of queries. When there is a result on this query, somebody needs to act. So what we can do then is look to automate this. So we can then look at creating custom rules from those search queries. As you'll see, we've got a bit of a description around this one, what it is. So it's detection of maldoc, and it's complementary to detections that are already built into the SentinelOne agent. When we see this, we can now apply policy to it. So we can treat it as a threat and we can apply our threat policy to it, which would kill the processes involved. So that would take the attacker out of our environment immediately. And we can detect this within seconds of it happening, potentially within milliseconds of it happening. Because it's a custom rule, we're looking at telemetry that's being uploaded. So that stream's coming up, we can detect and act based on that. And we can then create this rule and it effectively automates part of our threat hunting now. So an analyst doesn't need to come and validate this rule. We know that if it matches, an attack is happening, we will deal with it automatically and then let somebody know that we've dealt with it. And just really briefly, just to highlight sort of MDR as a service, what it brings. Starting right over on the left-hand side, you can see that we've got billions of events being ingested into the platform. Over the course of a week, it wouldn't be unusual to see this number of events being generated. What we can then do is distill that down into sort of around, we're going from billions down to thousands of events pretty quickly through the power of the platform, looking at those events, working out which are suspicious or threats. A lot can be blocked immediately and dealt with through the agent's capabilities. And then we're down to sort of single thousand numbers of events that are being looked at by an analyst to work out if there's further actions needed around that. And from that, we're then down to tens of events that an analyst will actually be dealing with from a remediation perspective, let's say. So whether that is producing a report that comes back that says you can do these things, or us actually taking control of machines to undo some of the actions and really clean things up. I'm conscious I talked quite a bit, but again, thank you for your time today.